I'm here with the Hori Split Pad Compact, and we're gonna have a look at it today in another super cool unboxing. Welcome to Mike Techs It Out. I'm Mike, and yes, I am possibly upgrading my Nintendo Switch controllers because for the last few months I had been living, well, it's been more than a few months, it's been most of the year, I've been living with these handheld PCs, either the GPD Win 3 or the Steam Deck, and I got used to their controls. But then one of my favorite franchises came back out, and that's Splatoon 3, and then of course we got Pokemon, so I finally was drawn back to the Switch for the first time in like 6 months. And the first thing I realized were the controls are horrible. So after using better thumbsticks on those handhelds, I was really like, yeah, I gotta step it up here. And that's why I was looking at this, the Split Pad Compact. And the Split Pad Pro has been out for a long time. I've eyeballed it in the past, but I thought it looked kind of big. And I didn't like the fact that it didn't have vibration or the gyroscope, which this doesn't either. But the experience with the Switch thumb pads for me is so bad that I finally am willing to make the concession, and the price isn't too bad. These are $50, considering that the Switch controllers are $80 and you do get those additional features. The pricing kind of makes sense. This also gives it a little bit more of a grip as well, which is welcome on the Switch. These things are just flat, so you really get no grip up here, which is not as big of a deal because the Switch is a lot lighter than the Steam Deck or the GPD Win 3. But it still is nice to have a little grip. Let's get this out of the package and see exactly what comes in the box. Here we are. And I also like these because for me, the size of the controllers were fine. These are a little bit bigger, or actually these are quite a bit bigger, but they're not as big as the Pros. I don't want anything that was gonna be huge on my Switch, but just something that would give me a little bit more travel. So here's what you have in the box. These are the controllers. They don't have any kind of battery. They're literally powered off of the Switch, so you don't have to worry about charging them or anything like that. Of course, you can't use them as wireless controllers either, but these are really just meant to be handheld controllers, and that's it. And again, I probably couldn't even play Splatoon with these because they don't have a gyroscope. I mean, I could, but you can't play Splatoon without a gyroscope. That's crazy. It's insane. Of course, here you have your instruction manual. This will probably be important later. This does have some additional functions, like you can assign these back buttons to specific buttons on the controller if you want to. I'm not a big fan of the back buttons, so I don't really care. There's also a turbo button on each side of the controller as well. So let me just pop these out of the plastic to see what we're really working with here. Immediately, the thumbsticks are 1,000 times better. The travel on these feel great. The trigger still has a short throw. I don't think the actual triggers feel better than the Switch. The shoulders are better. The shoulders also bother me on the Switch because the throw is so short. The triggers are fine because they have that nice click, but the shoulders always bother me. These are a little bit better. The thumbsticks are definitely better, like the travel in comparison to what we have here on the Switch. It feels like these barely move, but I'm gonna be honest about it. Of course, the other advantage is we get a D-pad, which is okay. It's not the most amazing D-pad. This is probably my favorite D-pad on the Win 3, which is the PlayStation style D-pad where it's really clicky. This is really satisfying. And this is another example of how they could have done the thumbsticks on the Switch. These are small thumbsticks as well, just like the Switch ones, but they just made it skinnier, so this has way more travel. I mean, these have other issues like coming off, so I'm not gonna say they're the best thumbsticks in the world. But if Nintendo wants to do like a smaller thumbstick that still had good travel, this would be like a good example of that. But I guess for the Switch's fan base, which might also include kids, it's probably easier for kids to use because of the travel being so short. So I can understand why Nintendo made that concession. The home button and the share button definitely have a lot more depth to it, which I like. These buttons are actually solid. They're plastic, and they have a decent amount of travel. Now, I prefer the actual buttons on the Joy-Cons because they have that bottom out click to them, but these are actually pretty good. Let me also bring out the Switch Pro controller here so we can have a quick comparison to that. The buttons on the Pro controller are a little bit bigger. The thumbstick feels very similar though, which I was playing with this last night when I was recording my video about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and I was like, you know what, any controller other than the Joy-Cons just make the Switch a more enjoyable experience. I also like how it has this rubbery feel on the top of the controller as well. These triggers are okay. I still think these triggers and shoulders on the Pro Controller feel a little bit better. This has a little bit more travel than this. Same thing with the shoulder, and it still has a satisfying click. So this is kind of like what I like about the regular Switch controller, but just more travel. So that makes sense. But this is like a good in between, especially for portable. And these are really light as well. Obviously, there's no battery or vibration mode or anything in there that would make these heavy. So that's going to be nice. It won't weigh down your Switch too much. Of course, here I have the behemoth, the Steam Deck. Steam Deck thumbsticks feel higher quality. There's a little bit more resistance to give you a little bit finer control than you would have up here. These are a little bit easier to move. The D-pad feels a little bit less mushy on the Steam Deck. And the triggers and shoulders up here I like. The funny thing is that these don't have that much of travel, but the buttons are big and you have to intentionally click these. They're hard to click by accident. I think that's my biggest complaint, is that the Switch ones are easy to click by accident, whereas the Steam Deck, I haven't had that issue. It seems like it'll be a good upgrade from the Joy-Cons. Let's slide these on. From a grip perspective, this is like 3,000 times better. Like, just holding it is way better. Unless you really like the vibration, or you really need that gyroscope, like you're playing a lot of Splatoon handheld, these things are worth it. This is a way better experience. Just the feel is better. These aren't huge like the Pros are, but they give you a way better grip, way better feeling. They're about maybe like 15% bigger than the Joy-Cons, wider that is, and then of course they're a lot deeper because they have that grip on the back, and it just makes this feel way more ergonomic without feeling too big. So far, first impressions out of the box, this thing's awesome. I would definitely be revisiting these, and we can explore some of the other things like mapping the back buttons and see what this turbo button actually does. But for now, this was kind of like your first impressions, and yeah, this thing seems pretty cool. But that's gonna do it for today. So if you enjoyed this video, then make sure to tell a friend, tell a coworker, like, share, and subscribe, and hit the bell notification to be notified when I drop a video. I always do at least 2 things at the same time.